It's just a matter of you having enough sense and enough smarts to work with the people who are there, who have provided leadership years before you arrived, and will still provide leadership years after you have gone.
Have you noticed a great deal of change between the communities that we discussed then and those now?
I have noticed some change, and clearly we have begun to develop a middle class in Mississippi that we did not have in the 50s and 60s and the 70s, for instance. And the development of this middle class has occurred because of institutions like Jackson State and Mississippi State and Mississippi Valley and Alcorn, et cetera, all of these schools. So clearly we know if we could get more people coming through the halls of these colleges and universities, that we can change Mississippi. We can change these communities. So the key, again, it goes back to educating the people, to educating, if you will, the masses in such a way that they can have an impact on the places where they reside. And then encouraging young people who are young, educated Mississippians to not go outside of the state to forge a career, but to look at ways that they can remain in the state to help us bring about the changes in these communities where we're from or in other places. But the idea is that let us make sure that we try to educate the population. And that's an obligation that we have here at Jackson State. It's an obligation that we have at all these colleges and universities in our state.
As a, pardon me, as a former professor and retired department chair, could you tell us how Jackson State was instrumental in the civil rights movement?
Yes, the students at Jackson State from the early 50s and 60s, there were always student leaders at Jackson State University involved in all aspects of the community around here. And just think how many young people that have graduated from Jackson State that took on the mantle of leadership in so many small towns and communities throughout the state of Mississippi. And some of these leaders who went back to Woodville and Natchez and different places are now elected leaders in their communities, or they are ministers of the gospel, or they are teachers and principals and administrators. So the student population, but from the early days, there have always been Jackson State students involved in the leadership in civil rights, working closely with Medgar Evers and working closely with Aaron Henry in these different towns and communities. So Jackson State has done a wonderful job of developing local leadership and, of course, state leadership. Just think, the president and CEO of the NAACP, the national NAACP, is a Jackson State University graduate.
You mentioned some very important people who were instrumental to the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
What are some character traits that they shared?
Vision, the vision of Fannie Lou Hamer, the vision of Annie Devine, the vision of Victoria Jackson Gray Adams, the vision of Dovey Hudson and Winston Hudson, the vision of E.W. Steptoe, the vision of Amzie Moore, the vision of Hazel Palmer, the vision of Aaron Henry, the vision of Mrs. Piggies, the vision of Geneva Reeves and Henry Reeves and S.T. Nero, the vision of these people. The vision is just the vision that they had, and then the ability not to accept the word no, is that the can-do attitude of a Fannie Lou Hamer, or the can-do attitude of an S.T. Nero, who said we can do it, it can be done. So important in the ability to convince other people that you know what you're talking about. The ability to convince other people to see your vision and to share your vision. It's so important. If you look at anybody you can think of who had a leadership role or who supplied leadership in these communities, I mean, you can examine them, and they just had a vision. This is something we can do, and they, all of these people, not only dealt with the immediate, but they thought about the future. And thank God that's where we are now, because they were able to look into the future and see the future and envision that we could be a better place. And we are a better place because of the work of these people.
So you just mentioned a lot of many important visions.
Yeah.
How do you feel that those visions compare with the way we conceptualize the civil rights movement?
Well, the totality of the civil rights movement, the framework of the civil rights movement, is constituted by these visions, right? The vision of an Ella Baker, or Bob Moses, or an E.W. Steptoe, right? Is that the goal was first-class citizenship. The goal was social change. The goal was improving the quality of life, right? The goal was having a sense of equity for people in these places. And it took all of these ideas. As my grandfather used to remind me, 2 heads is better than 1. So you had these different heads, these different visions, but with the goal being first-class citizenship. The goal being creating a perfect union, a more perfect union, right? And so Henry Reeves and E.W. Steptoe and Amzie Moore and Winston Hudson, all of these people who had the vision, and then the totality of these visions provided the framework for the civil rights movement. So Rosa Parks saying, I'm tired, I'm not giving up my seat this day. I mean, her work with the NAACP and with the Montgomery movement, all of these people, their visions helped to shape this nation that we live in today. So just think of this country, without A. Philip Randolph, without Ella Baker, without Amzie Moore. Just think, it would be a different world, a different country.
I'd like to step back for a moment and ask you, sir, how would you like to be remembered?
As a person who tried to make a difference. And that's what I try to do every day. Try to make a difference, and I try to make a difference. So on my tombstone, I want to just have it said that he tried to make a difference. And with the hope that every day it's going to get better, and you have to work at it. And if all of us can go down in history saying that we tried to make a difference, we would have a different world. But you got to try. And that's what I've tried to do, try to make a difference. Yeah.
Thank you for your time, sir.
And you're welcome. Yes.